study for a master's in
psychology
parapsychology?
Well, kind of, yeah. I mean, I am at Manchester Metropolitan University, and I'm doing an MSc in psychology.
Yeah.
And my research project is looking at paranormal belief and electronic voice phenomena. But in September, I set up the Parapsychology Society at uni, which is a student society. And the idea with that is to get people with all different viewpoints of the paranormal, believers, skeptics and everything in between, to come together, discuss about paranormal belief and hopefully take part in some research. But also we have guest speakers in, we get the staff to come in and do talks on various topics and organise events. But one of the things that I thought about doing was doing, like I'm doing now, like a little podcast series where I talk to people about the paranormal experiences and share that with the group and obviously more widely, and sort of bring a debate about, you know, what people believe and people's understanding of those experiences as well. So if we could start off with, if you could tell us a little bit about the history of Tatton Old Hall.
It stands very close to a scattered ancient monument of Tatton village. There's evidence from Manchester University. They did quite an extensive archaeological dig there over a number of seasons. So there's evidence of Mesolithic and Neolithic times as well, and it comes through Anglo-Saxon times, and we think it's called Tatton after Anglo-Saxon man called Tatter, and that's his ton or settlement. It comes into the Middle Ages, into the medieval period. It has its ups and downs, Black Death, etc. Until we arrive at about 1760, when it's pulled down by the Edgertons, Samuel Edgerton, to make a park. The village is in the way, as are one or two others. There's a sense of noblesse oblige that an honour that Samuel Edgerton bought out the leases.
Okay.
Most properties would be leased for, say, 99 years, so that's 3 generations, so that's to make sure that the first generation are going to look after properties for the next couple of generations and beyond. The evidence is there, just across the road from the Old Hall, and there's a deep hollow way where you suppose that thousands of feet and hooves have walked that way to hollow a roadway out. And it's quite evocative if you're into that sort of thing. So we have a little title, Ghosts in the Soil, if you like.
Oh wow, yeah.
Because that evidence is there. And it's one of the most important archaeological sites in the northwest of England. A lot of interest, a lot of stuff has been interpreted from there. The hall itself, we think, was built, I'm fairly sure it's built as a timber framed wattle and door building in about 1485. We know that Stanley's Holden Manor, and a whole lot of manors in the northwest of England and Wales, quite an influential family, built by Stanley, Sir William Stanley. Sir William Stanley and his brother were the people, the barons, if you like, that turned the tide against Richard III at the Battle of Bosworth.
Oh right, okay.
So they effectively put Henry VII onto the throne. He's an ungrateful Tudor and has Sir William executed 10 years after Bosworth for being implicated in the Perkin-Warbeck rebellion, and Perkin-Warbeck being one of the princes in the Tower.
Oh, okay.
Whether a pretender or not. Anyway, Sir William was executed, beheaded for being implicated in that rebellion.
Oh dear.
So whether his ghost walks around the hall, I don't know.
Could be, yeah.
Could be, head under his arm. Crosswing was added in about 1590, 2-storey, and then 100 years after that, brickwork went up to sort of consolidate the building, which was beginning to shift being timber frame, wattle and daub, and to modernise it. Archaeologists, particularly above ground archaeologists, get very excited over brickwork because it's high status.
Yes.
It remains a high status building. But it was converted into sort of cottages in somewhere around 1840 for estate workers. These sort of buildings very often pulled down when new halls are built or consolidated into the new hall. So we're quite lucky to have it here. Last person to leave was in 1960, and Mrs. Gavelcott. Her family lived here for about 40 years. She was the only person living in the Great Hall, in the hall itself, and it must be quite difficult for her.
I can imagine.
There's no running water. It's from a well. No electricity, no gas. So she was living in past times, as you might think. One or two people here think that Mrs. Gavelcott manifests herself when she's sort of pleased with us.
Oh, really?
And to do that through smells.
Right.
So someone like Sally, the Old Hall assistant, will smell washing.
Really?
And I thought I smelled baking bread at one time.
Really?
Really out of the blue, yeah. And that's if we run an event like a 1940s event.
Yeah.
We say that she's quite pleased
she
with what
approves.
we're doing. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Place was closed up for a while. 1968, I think the council who administered Tatton Park wanted to pull it down, but it was already a listed building, so that was prevented. And eventually a restoration scheme was set in place about 30 years ago.
Oh, right, okay, that's
We
good.
have a crock barn as well, which was imported from
Yeah.
Frodsham, as you know, and rebuilt and restored by a sort of a job creation scheme for young people.
Oh, okay. I wondered why it had come over from Frodsham.
It was very dilapidated. It was standing in the middle of a cabbage patch, if you like, with a tin roof, which was rusting away, collapsing as well. From what I've read in documents, his local council, Mr. Scott, the farmer, wanted him to pull it down, but he cut a long story short, he donated it to the Tatton Park project, the Old Hall project. And it's a good example of the vernacular.
Apparently the Old Hall is haunted.
It has a reputation for being haunted. Personally, whether it is or not, I'll sit on the fence, really. I'm an agnostic in a way.
Sure.
I've taken part in quite a few sort of events, and it's been interesting to observe and to listen as well. There's some things you can't explain.
Sure.
Sort of look for the obvious. There's stuff that can't explain, whether it's paranormal or not. Again, I remain not sceptical, but as a skeptic with a K.
Yeah, questioning.
Yes.
Seems probably the best way
it's
to
all
be.
very interesting. A master's in contemporary spirituality, so it does interest me. Because I think it is a form of spirituality for some people, as sort of mainstream religion in some cases declines. I was talking to Carl Beattie a few months ago. There'd been a dip in the interest of paranormal and a resurgence, and he says resurgence, especially amongst young people. I think ghosts and spirits have always been the sort of domain of older people. More young people are showing an interest. That's partly because of television programs, and partly because of the state of the world, he thinks. We had a count up one day when we had a list of about 33 that have been reported.
Really, that many?
Over the time, yeah.
Gosh.
We're going to take some with a pinch of salt.
Of course, yeah.
I'm not being pejorative, but you know, because people believe in what they not want to believe in what they believe in.
Yes,
I think.
of course.
So yes, the ghosts sort of manifest themselves through EMF meters. Some interesting results there. For instance, you might hold a sort of séance with the EMF meters, and a range of them, and they'll all go off at once in an answer to a question or something like that.
And of course, not many or any electrical sources.
No, there isn't, and most of the time, if not all of the time, the electricity circuit is isolated. Okay, people might be carrying mobile phones or something like that, but or something to disturb the EMF meters. But quite often, the meters will go off in an answer to a question.
Yes, and at the same time.
And at the same time, which I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It's a drafty place, so you get cold spots anyway, so you've got to be aware of that. Sort of ghostly figures have been seen. I hasten to add, I've never seen any, knowingly. But I'm not that sensitive, I think, when it comes down to it. We've had some pagan people in, and pagans come at it from a different angle. It's really quite interesting.
Oh, right, okay. It's not something I've looked into, actually.
It might be worth,
definitely.
there are pagans and pagans, and witches as well. So some self-confessed witches will join us. Mainly white witches. There's a chap I know who's not a white witch. And what he comes up with is spooky.
I can imagine.
His group and myself are in the Great Hall, sort of conducting a séance. So probably séance isn't proper sort of term for it, but in the dark. But he was talking about he was in touch with a female spirit, but not a human spirit.
Oh, really?
And that she'd come to look after 4 trees in the ground.
Oh, right, okay.
And only the day before we had planted 4 saplings. And that's right, she was talking in Flemish to him.
Really?
How he knew that, I don't know. But the saplings had been grown from acorns from the First World War cemetery, a German cemetery.
Really?
In Flanders. So you've got Flanders Flemish, you've got 4 saplings that he wouldn't have known about. I didn't connect with those 4 trees because we've got lots of historical trees in Tatton and in the Old Hall grounds. Yeah. Some very old indeed. But the chap through this spirit, I've just done that in parenthesis, it was pretty good.
Well, that's interesting because obviously it's a very old site, isn't it? The ground itself dates back so far.
Yes.
As well,
yes.
So it's not just what we see; it's also the ground of what was here before.
Well, people have explored the grounds. I've seen, quite out of the blue, has seen or say that it's seen spirits or ghosts. There is a difference in the grounds. Usually it's always a white lady or a grey lady, and children as well. And if you look at censuses from the past, censuses from the past, you'll see that living in the hall could be 3 families, and lots of children. So there have been reports of children trying to pick pockets or mischievous and so on. But generally they're seen by people who perhaps work with children, teachers.
Oh, right,
and so
okay.
on. What other sort of ghosts do we have or spirits? In the Great Hall, reported several times that there's a big man who's got a personal load of problem, likes to drink, bearded, who will come up to mediums and say, "Get out, get out."
But you've not seen anything yourself, but you've...
I've not. I mean, there's supposed to be someone who follows me around. That's been reported. In a place like the Old Hall, it is sort of spooky, so if you're in there by yourself, you sort of glance over your shoulder. But you sort of make peace with them, whether that's in your own mind or in the paranormal way.
Yeah.
And the reports from mediums that that the spirits like what we're doing.
Well, that's good. But it's keeping the history alive, isn't it?
It is. Whether you believe in it or not, the Old Hall is evocative. It will raise these sort of issues in your mind.
It's very atmospheric.
Yeah. So imagination will work. There's a spinning room, which the first sort of encounter in a paranormal sort of way, again, was with some pagan people, witches, down to earth. But they came up to me in a Viking event that we had here and said, "Show us round, Mick, show us round." And we stood at what they call the portal to the spinning room. And they said there was an air of expectation and disappointment in there, the sad little room, which I don't find. I think it's quite a nice room. A lot of colours in there, like the way the sun comes in there in the morning. So again, it's an evocative room, and your imagination works.
Of course.
But just going back to, for a few of us standing at the portal, I was waving my arms around, as you sort of demonstrate things. And as my arm went through the portal, it was like an electric shock.
Oh, really?
It was a sort of definite cutout as when past the sort of threshold. And I drew my arm back, and they just laughed at me and they said, "Let your guard down." And that I puzzled over long and hard, but I think that's something that came from the bottom of brain, subconscious.
So is that at the door itself to the room, or
at the door itself?
At the door.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And it is a favourite room. For a quiet moment, I'll just sit down for a moment and that. And much to my embarrassment, I sort of admitted it to another paranormal group. And so don't worry about it. That's something that we do. Yeah. Yeah.
I think haven't some people heard crying in that room as well? It's one of the reports. I don't if that's something.
It has a reputation of being sad. So if you're looking at expectation and disappointment, you could suppose that someone's.
If you hear the wind whistling through, you might possibly interpret it then.
Yes, there are noises. You've asked if I've experienced sightings or whatever. A few of us have heard noises, footsteps in particular.
Oh, right.
Now there could be an explanation for that, the farm traffic going bumping past or so on. There were a couple of seasons ago, I was in the Great Hall on a Monday when the park's closed and no one within a couple of miles of me. And I had footsteps, I swear I heard footsteps on the corridor upstairs, sort of stumbling, quite loud ones. And that maybe, again, might raise something up from the subconscious, because when Most Haunted were in the first time, everybody was in the Great Hall or on the gallery, and I'm pretty sure there was no one on the corridor. And the soundman shouted for quite silence, and we heard footsteps again. And a few people have heard footsteps.
Were you scared at all when you heard them at that time?
On that Monday, I thought, I was scared. I was taken aback, I think, because they did sound quite real.
Quite loud.
Yeah, so it took me a minute or so to go and investigate.
And you went to have a look?
Yes, There was no one there.
The hall itself is quite evocative because each of the rooms is from a different time period as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, that people tend to find spirits in that time that the rooms are set in, and it's a common thing.
Yeah.
Now the argument could be because the rooms are evocative and have a sort of empathy, is that the right word? With whoever's sort of experienced these sort of manifestations.
So do you get many visitors reporting
We
experiences?
do. If we hold an event, occasionally someone will come and tell us about something they've experienced in a room. These are people who are, sensitives.
Sure.
There might be one or two. We had a teacher who saw someone up on the gallery. She wasn't quite sure whether it was our staff in costume or not, but it wasn't. She was quite upset by it as well, or a little bit worried.
Yeah, I can imagine it must be quite scary. So obviously these are people not coming in for a paranormal investigation, of course, so they're not expecting to see anything necessarily.
That's right, just visitors. Sometimes there's a reputation gets around, particularly with Most Haunted. A new series, wasn't there, back in the summer. And they'll come visitors because of that, the dual interest, if you like, in the history and the sort of paranormal history as well. So I think it's innate, really, in people, in the human race, that they want to be in touch with the ancestors.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And again, and looking for something after death as well.
It is fascinating. I mean, even though I would class myself as a skeptic, I still find it fascinating. So I still go ghost hunting and all that kind of stuff, because I'd quite like to believe, although I don't at the minute, but I would quite like to see something, because I'd like to be challenged and think, actually, I don't know if I can explain that experience. I mean, I got my first EVP here in the Old Hall. Now, admittedly, it was with a camera audio, which was quite an old sort of tape player. So you could have sort of internal moving parts on the camera, but it sounded like a woman's voice saying, "Don't go." That was the first one I ever got, and it was in the Old Hall.
In the Old Hall itself?
Yeah, because I think we'd set up the camera recording what was happening in the room during the investigation, and then when I listened to the audio back, I heard that. There was also a bell chime in the background as well, which was, I couldn't place it where that came from, but there was a bell chime, and then almost straight after there was this, it sounded like a voice saying, "Don't go," woman's voice, and that was it. There wasn't anything else. We also were in the Cruck barn quite a lot as well, weren't we? A few people picked up spirits in there, and I think we were thinking, because it had been moved, that possibly could have brought something with it. I mean, people were coming up with things that were to do with witches, I think, weren't they? I don't know if that was a bit of a leap, but with it coming from a different part of the area, we weren't sure if there were any spirits attached to it, they'd sort of come with it, maybe.
It's from the imported building. It's surprisingly active, or seems to be active, with all sorts of things. We've had the Burtons in there, Richard and William. There's another association with a beheaded nobleman, so William Burton was accused of dallying with Anne Boleyn.
Oh, really?
If you watch Wolf Hall, it sort of explained that a little bit. And he was executed as well. So it's interesting to have a sort of backstory to tell people. There's a great romance, I think, about the Old Hall and its people.
And the grounds are so nice as well.
Yes, as I might have mentioned earlier, that sort of spirits or ghosts have been seen in the grounds by our staff as well.
Yeah.
If you go back to the pagan chap, last time he was here, it was again just a little bit dark, sort of thing. And I was sitting on the chest in the Great Hall, and because he was telling such a good story, I felt or imagined that someone had come to sit behind me on the chest.
Oh, really?
So much so that I could feel the heat of his body. I imagined the heat of his body.
Yeah.
And his breath behind me.
Did you look round?
I didn't look round. Total darkness. I wouldn't have seen anything.
Well, I suppose that's true.
At all. And I puzzled over that. And again, it's part of that storytelling, I think, which may or may not have been paranormal. What am I trying to say? Part of that storytelling that I puzzled over it. And then I thought, oh, perhaps that whatever it is behind me has come to protect me.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, exactly.
You know, against this sort of drama that was going on.
Yeah. Well, I think that's often the thing that's been lost in some of the programmes that are on now. Ghosts are sort of, or spirits are seen as always being evil, but of course that's not necessarily how it happens. A lot of them are sort of protective or friendly, and they're just sort of coexisting almost with the living.
Yes, that's been explained a few times to me, that actually being followed around, they're quite like you.
Yeah.
You're looking after them, that sort of, which is great. You're looking after the building. But,
yeah, well, you could imagine if you were, or any of us were spirits, that if we quite like things to stay as they are. It's the house that you lived in.
Yes.
And it's nice that somebody's looking after it and keeping.
Well, it throws up the question that if the house is pulled down, as it might have been in 1968, where do the spirits go?
Well, that's it. Yeah. That would be such a shame.
Are they displaced? Do they remain in a sort of a past life which includes the building? So.
Well, there is, of course, the stone tape theory, which a lot of people hold, that it's the building itself that holds the memory, particularly if it's just a sort of replaying of something.
Yeah.
And then, like you say, if that structure then goes, what happens to that?
Yeah, there's fear of the residual energy, isn't there, as well? That ghosts creaking door there.
A bit spooky.
That are ghosts rather than spirits, as I interpret it.
The main mansion also apparently is haunted. Have you heard anything?
It is, not so much as the Old Hall. I don't know too much about the mansion, but
sure.
We had a member of staff who was when she first came, she saw a person walking into the room, and the person was dressed in a particular sort of style. Sometimes people smell the sort of brimstones or sulphur.
Oh yes, I've heard that. Yeah.
Matches, which I think might be Morris, the last Earl Edgerton. Someone's sort of seen a figure in the tenants' hall, which is a big sort of building. That's been late at night, so that must have been quite scary.
I could imagine, yeah, when you're locking up.
Yeah.
Parts of my university are meant to be haunted as well, apparently.
Are they?
Yeah. Our old campus, although I only visited once, was meant to be haunted. But also the John Dalton building, which is actually a 60s building. So you wouldn't necessarily assume or think it might be haunted.
Yeah, it depends what it's built on, doesn't it?
That's true, yeah.
My maternal grandmother came from that sort of area, Cambridge Street, I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
At the back of MMU. They're in the Great Hall. They're supposed to be misogynistic.
Yeah, so I hear. Yeah.
A colleague had something go around the neck. She said it wasn't strangling her. It's like a cord or a ribbon that she couldn't get off. Another one had her hair pulled. I got the blame for that. But,
yeah.
I didn't do it.
No.
Other things happen there. The batteries will drain very quickly when most haunters were in last there.
I brought a spare battery today just in case.
Yeah. So a big battery. I can't remember if it was a camera battery, recorder battery. I think it was a camera battery, which had recently been charged that day. Just
so no reason for it to
flat,
drain.
absolutely flat. We had a school in last week. Yes, it was last week, and some of the teaching assistants who had come along had heard of its reputation, and really quite a bonus for them.
Yeah.
And they showed me pictures of one. It looks like an archer, sort of shadowy figure
Really?
of an archer, and another one of a woman. It could simply be shadows.
Of course, yeah.
Making
And is
those
that
images.
in the grounds, or were they in
No,
actually
it's in the
inside?
hall itself.
Oh, okay.
And it was great interest in orbs, and
Yeah.
I think orbs have sort of come along with digital cameras,
Yeah.
because the flash is so close to the lens that the light goes out, strikes a mote of dust, and is
I must admit, I'm
recorded.
quite sceptical about orbs.
Yeah.
The old hall is shut most of the year, is that right? Or does it open up at certain times?
It opens at certain times during the high season. We do guided tours, mainly the Thursday and the Friday of school holidays.
Okay.
We're very, very busy with schools because changes in the national curriculum.
Okay.
So it's quite vibrant that way. You can probably just hear a sort of class going
Yeah.
on.
Oh, that's really good.
So the children are living as Anglo-Saxons today. So
Are
you
they
never
they're
know,
dressing
that
up?
might evoke
Could do.
the past.
We have reenactments here as well, don't you?
Reenactments, the medieval fair, Viking Sunday and so
Is that a particular time of year? Is there a day?
Yeah, sort of June for medieval fair, August for Viking.
That sounds really good.
And of course we do a fair few paranormal investigations.
Of course, yeah.
Most haunted come back, and they've been quite good. They are quite good to work
Yeah.
with.
Well, they've been here a few times now, haven't they?
Yeah.
Investigations here. Well, Carol Thatcher, of course, came for the first one.
It was really good. That.
Yeah. I can imagine she's quite entertaining.
She is lovely. I think one of the interesting things about the paranormal now, or ghost hunting, is the aspect of spiritualism.
Sure.
I'm not aware of people having that many private readings. I don't think that's a remit of the company or whatever. But it's still sort of influenced by the Victorian,
of course, yeah,
interest in ghosts and spirits and seances. It does seem to me. My mother was a spiritualist, and sister was, and so on. And even then, it was seen as entertainment, as it can be now. But that's, as I mentioned, this sort of thing is almost innate in us, in this sort of seeking. Way back beyond the Victorian period, we would have had the wise men and wise women and sensitive women, people interested in the sort of thing.
Do you think that family background may have influenced what you did for your masters?
Personally, I had a massive heart attack.
Oh, really?
Some time ago, and that does sort of,
I can imagine.
Sort of pull you up. I'd have been interested in religion and so on, and not so much to participate in it, but the study of it, I think, I found it interesting, fascinating, and still do. Different sorts of religion. And so I took a degree in history with theology and religious studies, and then on to, as a mature student, and then a few years later on into the contemporary spirituality. Probably the only person in the country who's got that.
Well, it sounds fascinating. I remember you mentioning it when we were here, and I remember at the time thinking I really wish I'd had the chance to chat to you about it, because it sounded fascinating. So where's the best place for people to find out about the events that are coming up?
The paranormal events.
Either, or just normal Tatton events.
Tatton events, you'll find it on the website.
Okay.
look out for links to the Old Hall. Tatton runs about over 100 events per year, and a few of them are down here.
Okay.
Paranormal, get in touch with us via our reception, or whatever. It is a popular place for paranormal investigation, so we do get booked up. And there's only a certain amount we can do because of other stuff as well. Phil Wyman's been here, and some local groups as well. Most haunted are here with Carol Thatcher, as we talked about. They had a guest medium. And it should come out of the stream of consciousness, really, subconsciousness. And she mentioned a lady by the name of Helena, or something like that, with a child at her side. A little girl who both loved and feared a man, whether it was father or not. But to cut a long story short, it seems that one of our managers was asleep.
Oh, right.
At that time, about the time this happened, and he had a very vivid dream that he was in the Old Hall, and that there was a little girl standing next to a woman called Eleanor.
Really?
Yeah.
At the same time? That's fascinating, isn't it?
It's
that's quite spooky.
He was really, it was so vivid. He was telling people about it, and I'd related my part of the story to someone, and they said, "Have you been talking to so and so?" I said, "No, not at all. I've just come across, to the mansion." And that moment it came into the rooms, so they said, "Tell him that what you." And then he went white and told me about the stream.
Yeah.
He spoke to Kieran out of Most Haunted about it, and so on. That's a coincidence, isn't it?
Quite a big coincidence, though. Yeah. How did you become involved with Tatton?
History. I always liked history. Again, I was taking out history and theology degree, and I joined the education team 20 years ago.
Oh, right, okay.
And I like what I saw. It's how can one put it? It's a vocation. It's almost a calling, as some religions would say. It's just got something about it that keeps me here.
And have you always been at the Old Hall, or did you also do work at the main buildings
Originally
as well?
I did sort of education work, sort of stuff that's going on today, sort of living history. And then became the Old Hall steward in 1999, September 99, so been here a reasonable time. People do tend to stay because they love the place. And then we can call in people to help us out with things like Halloween as well, which I forgot to mention.
Yeah, it Ghost in the Garden? I saw something advertised previously. Yeah,
it goes across the park, so the garden do something, the mansion do, the farm does, and the big ones here, we turn it into a haunted house.
For the Old Hall?
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
great.
Special lighting, sound.
Oh, but that's brilliant.
People in costume, you don't know whether they're real or not.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. If they can walk through walls, they're probably not real.
We're working with the Roald Dahl.
Oh, I saw something about that online,
yeah.
Oh, that'd be great.
So the Old Hall itself would have a sort of witches theme.
Wow.
So we'd like to think that the spirits and the ghosts join in.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Oh, that sounds really interesting. I'll definitely come along to that. But yes, well, thank you very much. It's been fascinating. Really enjoyed it.
Well, I'm glad you could come. Please look at you and it says with you.